Morning. In this video, I want to show you what my Lantanas look like in June. All right, so my front yard is desert themed as opposed to my backyard, which is more tropical themed. And so as you can see in my front yard, I have a couple Lantana bushes. And I've decided to make them look almost like little trees. And the trick here is to go down low towards the trunk of the Lantana and keep that cleaned up. And as you can see, it's getting a little bit overgrown down here. And so what I do periodically, probably once a month, once every couple weeks, depending on the time of the year, I'll come down here and thin down the bottom first. Make sure that I have a barrier between the ground and the Lantana bush just to make it look more tree-like. And this is, again, a choice. You don't have to make them look like trees. You can make them look like a ground cover, like a bush, like a tree, whatever makes you happy. You're the gardener. You tell the tree what you want it to look like. And so I'm just cleaning up the bottom first. But you'll also notice that there's a lot of branches that are pretty much sticking straight out. You can also make little bouquets with the stuff you trim off if you want. Something that might be fun for kids to do. Put them in a little cup or whatever. The flowers are pretty. I just kind of leave them where they fall though. So yeah, go around, trim them up. Don't be afraid to cut off flowers. Something that I tell people if they get nervous to trim these things is for every flower you cut off, you're going to get poor. I don't know if that's perfectly true or not, but you will get more branching. Every time you cut a meristem off of these guys, you're going to get some branching. That's a mistake I see a lot of people do. They get a new Lantana, they're scared to trim it, so they just let it go, and they'll have like 2 or 3 really long branches with 2 or 3 flowers on the tips. What you'll want to do if you're starting to get these to branch out, like think about a family tree. You know, a family tree, you have one branch that turns into 2, turns into 4, turns into 8, 16, 32, 64, etc., etc. With Lantana bushes, it's pretty much the same thing. Every time you cut a branch, you cut the tip off of that branch, it's going to turn into 2, and then 4, and then etc., etc. So you can imagine that by periodically pruning them, it's causing them to get very, very branched out, very, very thick, very bushy. So if your intention is, or your desire is to get a very bushy Lantana bush, you're going to want to prune it, especially at the beginning of the growing season, probably every other week. It doesn't take long. It would probably take me, 5 minutes maybe, every couple weeks. But then once they get established, you can kind of just let them go. Like by July, I'll probably just ignore them. And it's been about a month since I've touched these things, so. And you can see I'm cutting off a lot of flowers, but like I said, just have faith. Every flower you cut off, there's going to be a bunch more that take their place. This is just to keep the branches from getting too long and leggy and linky. I have some neighbors that kind of just let theirs go, and they'll have 3 long sticks, and I just so much want to go in their yard and help them, but that'd be super awkward. All right, so if you look down here on this guy, you'll notice that it's getting very bushy on the bottom. If I wanted to let this become a bush, I could just leave these bottom branches, but by pulling all these off, I create the appearance that this is actually a tree, even though it's a Lantana bush. We call it a bush, but I can make it look tree-like by keeping this trunk open. So just getting all these extra branches thinned out. And I like to pull them straight away from the trunk, just so that there's not branching. Because if I was to prune these, it would just get worse. But by tearing them straight off of the trunk, it's keeping the trunk clean. And they'll probably come back a little bit, but this allows me to keep that tree-looking form a little bit longer. And then something else I like to do after I thin out the trunk is I'll kind of walk around the bottom and prune it. And I've already done that. I stopped the camera just because I didn't want to make too much breathing noise into the camera. But this is basically what they look like after I give them a quick 5-minute pruning. And then probably in about a week or two, the number of flowers on these things will double. It'll pretty much be completely covered with yellow. Another trick that I do that a lot of people don't is manure. Put like a half bag of manure at the beginning of the season under each of these, and yeah, you'll be impressed with the flowering you get. All right, hope this helps you.